it'll time.
So go ahead and do something. So
hey, welcome to Atlanta. Atlanta. This is the poetry pop-up book release party for Poetry is Dead with your editor, P.W. Covington.
Wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, we just popped up. Okay, so that's the delay on.
Okay, but it's actually happening. So your editor-in-chief, P.W. Covington, and fellow contributor Tom Murphy.
Okay, we'll sit that way.
Cool. You want the middle?
No, I felt it's like
Hi diddle diddle.
like
Sun
Tom
frogs.
Snyder over.
Hi diddle diddle. Sun frogs in the middle.
Oh, and the cow jumped over the moon.
So
Hi everybody.
why did you make a Deadhead poetry book?
Because I like the Dead. And I like poetry. And that's about it. Now, I'll tell the story a little bit of how exactly I came to this realization one stormy afternoon in Boulder, Colorado. But Deadheads are the best people in the world. If only for 4 hours on an evening somewhere in some NFL, MLB, or NCAA stadium. There's such a community.
Foxborough, Mass. For me this time.
yeah, well, I've only seen 2 shows, and I came in late on the second show, and the first one's actually in this anthology. That episode.
2 shows ever?
2 shows ever. Actually, I saw the Dead. Yeah, in '86 and like 91.
You saw the Grateful.
I saw the Grateful Dead. Yeah.
Because he's on the Dead and Company bus as I am. Are you not on the Dead and Company bus?
No, I've never seen them.
We need to roll the bus up. Well,
Yeah.
This was a great tour. I
Yeah.
got to see 3 shows this tour. I got to see both Boulder shows that we came up to New York and called the closing show at City. And I'll tell you what, man, the originalists out there, that's great. We need that. But I saw so many young people, so many energized young people. We were walking over to the lot. Like I call it the lot. Some people will call it Shakedown Street.
Right.
It had just rained, so like half of everybody was flooded out. But we were walking over, and this is something that my girlfriend pointed out to me as we walked by. You know, you catch this conversation. Well, I wasn't even alive when Jerry died, man. So I don't really like people talking that I don't have the right to take the music. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I get it. If the connection is there, and there's so much more than the music, then gatekeepers are gonna keep gates, man. But
they've got problems of their own.
Yeah. So
is the canon open or closed then, as far as songs?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna be running through the halls of our high school anytime at a Dead and Company show. But
On the motorcycle?
I'm up for it because you know.
I know some.
You know, I think that's one of the great things about the Dead is we take these songs, these classic bluegrass and blues songs are being kept alive in ways that just aren't with other acts. And a whole new generation. There's generations out there that Mama Tried as a Dead song. And that's cool because it's a great song.
I really actually listening this this journey driving from Texas there and everything. I really like the version that they do of Tangled Up in Blue.
Yeah.
And it's first I was going whoa, and it's like actually I could understand the lyrics better when Jerry was singing it. So it's really a great version.
If you get a good version, because I mean Jerry was a great guitar player.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Dylan and the Dead are a thing, but we're here to read some poetry, man.
Yeah. And since you helped make so much happen, and when I think Deadhead, somehow you got in there, and a lot of other things too. I could call you a lot of things, but I call you the
definitely late.
I call you the dude who wrote the foreword to this book.
So in the foreword, I talk about the Grateful Dead as a wisdom tradition, as an American wisdom tradition, and I think it's kind of a ecumenical and inclusive folklore. But back in when you saw them in '86 and 91.
91,
I saw them in 87 and 88. You weren't there yet.
No, I think I caught a show in '94 at the Greek.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah.
Nice venue for that.
And that was like the only early show, or the only, not early.
Both my shows were just down the road. You know, it was the Henry Kaiser Pavilion, Henry J. Kaiser, and the other one was the Oakland Coliseum.
West Coast, Midwest, Detroit, and Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. So I'll read the poem written about Alpine Valley, Wisconsin, and actually written in prose and reconstituted in verse some 30 odd years later, 33 years after it was published in Babyfish Lost Its Mama. But the thing that was interesting for me is that I came over from punk rock. I came over from folk, kind of anti-folk, which is now called folk punk. So I came over from anti-folk and what we now call indie rock, but then we call punk or, garage. But there was bands like the Meat Puppets and the Buffalo Surfers that were definitely taking the psychedelic thing into the punk community. And I sort of felt like I was a heretic because I wanted to be a hippie and a punk both. I didn't want to, if one is left hand, the other is right hand, what have you. I didn't want to deny either part of myself. And so some of us actually took those words and fused it into one compound word, hippie punk. And Babyfish Lost Its Mama was this issue was 150 page. One person called it a brick, to break a window with, or kindling for a massive hearth. But it was a massive 80s fanzine. And this is my first show from Babyfish #2, 1988. And I'm calling it Not Fade Away, my first show. And I've turned it, some excerpts of a prose piece into a poem. And I didn't really make very many changes at all because it was so ready for this in its incarnation. So, Not Fade Away. The golf and ski resort has been overrun by a strange breed. I'm going to start that again. Bead. I'm wearing some beads.
You got this. You got it.
Some Buddhists love beads. Okay. The golf and ski resort has been overrun by a strange breed. They still call them hippies in 1987. The hippies are swimming in the golf course water hazards, sunbathing under trees, and fucking on the fairways. What was once a parking lot is a campground and alternative bohemian marketplace with travelers peddling incense, bells, tie-dyes, and colorful bracelets, LSD and stickers and tributes to the Grateful Dead, a musical form of pure ecstasy, country and blues and dance-filled rock and roll, a tribal ritual, celebration of love, sharing of energies for rainbow people of all shapes and sizes. The sun-drenched people conduct their own human be-in, a woman with crowns of roses, children rolling on the grass, also smoking grass, prepare themselves for the unifying groove. Suddenly, it hits us, lost for several hours in that sea of color, dancing chains of bodies, giant parachute fabric floating by, whirl through the first set with wide eyes and awe. The dance moves around the hill where people play drums during the break. Something primitive and oh so fine has emerged from deep inside our desires to the point of complete communal exchange. So published in 88 from my first show, which was in June of 87. It was a Saturday afternoon show at Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. Not Fade Away. And now, anthologized for the ages, In Poetry is Dead, an inclusive anthology of deadhead poetry with our editor, E.W. Covington.
Let's talk a little bit about the community, the movable feast that is a dead tour. A movable flea market. Folks down in part of the world I used to live in may call this a psychedelic pulga of sorts. The energy of the road. I think that's one of the things people think of the most. I know it's one of the things that attracted me the most about the Dead is just how hardworking they are. First rock and roll band out there to have unionized roadies, and doing it all over the country for so many years, over and over again.
And they're giving people access.
I know that we're oh, there he is again.
Talking off
There he
screen.
is,
Sorry
there he
about
is
that.
again. Yeah.
And snapping off screen. Sorry.
So in the Deadhead documentary that streamed on Amazon a few years ago, it's a 4-episode documentary, 4 or 5 episode documentary,
Yeah.
4 or 5 episodes. Anyway, the episode, my favorite is the one on the Deadheads because it really celebrates the community, and they bring in, Al Franken and some of these, celebrity heads. But they're sitting there and they're talking about their cassette collection. But in that there's an interview clip with Jerry Garcia where he talks about how does he say it? Basically, that the Kerouac on the road, nomadic, hobo, train hopping, etc. thing had kind of died down at the time. Now 87 seems very kind of quaint to me, but at the time I think we thought we were in that, we were in the apotheosis of mass culture, suburban, brain dead, plastic, bouffant, hair, whatever those. They didn't call that bouffant, but
There was a lot of Aquanet going on.
Yeah, the 80s hair. So I think there is this call to the vagabond life
That's one of my favorite words in the English language. Probably didn't start there. Vagabond. Just always like the way it looks, the way it sounds. It starts with a hard vowel like V, so it's one of those be careful of me words. Don't get too close, maybe. I love that word. Just as an aside. The genesis of this project was actually my observations of the Deadhead community. We were at Boulder for the first show in 2019. The rain and snow show, I like to call it, because they come out, they start out, they go in the second song, Cold Rain and Snow, and the university comes over, and everybody has to get out of the bleachers, there's lightning, whatever. So we're evacuated we're told to leave the bleachers, and they put us in that little field house area where the concessions are in Boulder. Probably about 5,000 of us in an area not very much bigger than maybe an ice rink. And for about an hour, everyone was there. They called the university police out, and they were up on the catwalk, and you could almost see these cops' thoughts. They're up there looking down at us. What the hell do you want us to do? There's no problem here. There was no pushing. There was no shoving. It wasn't even very much bickering. Eventually, the concessionaires moved in there and started serving drinks. And it occurred to me that this probably wouldn't happen at a Toby Keith show. This probably wouldn't happen with a lot of other rock and roll bands. But something about the community and all being in it together. And then when they did let us go back to our seats after about an hour, the band came out and picked up on the exact note. They didn't restart the song, the exact downbeat that they left on. Oh. So it was like a real bonding experience there. And anybody who was at that show will remember that show. And everybody has that show. I'm gonna take a look here because I think we're.
How long ago did that happen?
I have no idea.
I was so entranced by PW's information and ideas about that story, about that time.
You're gonna read the next. I like this though. This is how we roll.
All right, so I'm gonna read about my experience too, and this is called Ash Wednesday. 5 of us were on BART under the San Francisco Bay, zipping along towards Oakland, holding a stainless steel pole when we dropped acid. Matt didn't, couldn't, wouldn't go to experience the Dead. I did and paid for a ticket and would take 18 Muni from Westlake Daly City, where I lived with Russians, Zoya and Lev Rosenberg. I talked about writers and artists of Paris, 20s, their inventiveness of those expatriates. We'll call them the avant-garde, a new term to my mind on Ash Wednesday, 1986. My senses were so in tune with that bright light of his eyes. Matt introduced me to Shelley and Daniel. Their apartment overlooked Geary Street in the outer Richmond. The weekend before the show, Matt had the hots for Shelley. Microphone stand city at the back floor for anyone to record the night's offering from Bobby, Bill, Mickey, Brent, and Jerry Garcia. In floor curves, couples danced fast. Never saw bodies so in tune with each other's writhing grooves. After the Neville Brothers jam, people in the outer walkways, 50 or so deadheads, sitting in circles, passing joints, shirtless, tripping, topless, chillaxed, ready for the band. We three hit the packed bar for a quick drink. And Will came over later. Nobody had really slept. Justine and Will drew, painted through dusky, dark, hourly hours of the night until passing out. Paint caked hands, grotesque, like dried blood. Justine asked if I was gay. Back in the seats between us, do I really like men? The gin and tonic, a ton of bricks. Light tracers, arced as Justine berated my sexuality brutally. I looked at Will's questioning, but he couldn't hear her. Justine, such a bummer, but she wanted me. Shaken, stirred, I floated downstairs and onto the floor. He was tall, even sitting, and reached backwards. A joint. Now I missed it. There he goes. Whipped out backwards, and I took it and toked it and sat down. So much shit flew around there. And I sat down, whipped out my own clay pipe to share hash with my new friend. The band began to tune on stage, and we stood for them to start. Ochre, yellow floor, floodlight tracers, Justine's first floor hazmat mold apartment. I hadn't seen it that evening, but spent spring nights later rendering her animalistic tones. Parents, older, richer, lived in the Hillsborough. I never met them. She was too damn bossy. The tall guy's pinball eyes stared at me. He emitted a sound like a plane's bombing raid. As Hell in the Bucket began, I started to peeking. Bobby Weir's head began to burn, and his skull fully emerged from his skin. Somehow, the five of us made it back to the outer Richmond, where I tried to sleep on the couch when I finally came down by smoking okra yellow hash. Daniel brewed coffee while Shelley slept. Justine. We stumbled to a video rental store, picked up two flicks I'd never seen before. Eraserhead, stomping on falling worms. The Thing, morphing aliens into killer dogs until blowing Antarctica Station into oblivion. Bobby's fire red laser beam eyes saw my dad trying to choke me to death. At least I'll enjoy the ride. Hatchet in my hand, I struck Dad. His yellow blood flowed, covering the floor. Ride, ride. I fully understand the existential moment, the lights and the swing. Stoned, right then and there. Shake it, sugary. The vision's meaning, free to be myself. driving from Ketchum across Idaho at 100 miles per hour, fire on the mountain cranked up, drinking St. Stan's alt beer, snatched from the cooler, passing everybody on the way to craters of the moon. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Murphy.
Woo! All right, the camera is a shaky, like we're driving down the road in the bumpy back of a school bus.
Georgia earthquakes, baby.
Painted all many colors. Anyway, I'm Andrew Smith, aka Sun Frog. We've got editor-in-chief P.W. Covington. That's Tom Murphy. We're celebrating the book release this month of Poetry is Dead. It made its debut in the parking lot on Shakedown Street and a couple of shows already on tour. And we're here in the ATL in the Hot Atlanta tonight, doing the live stream. Yeah.
Sponsored by the Carmichael Garden Group.
No, just rented from them.
Well, but we're gonna give them some little PR there.
Okay.
They're good to us.
So anyway, we're going to be in Cookeville, Tennessee on Friday, a live reading with two other poets.
That's in 2 days.
And this Friday, July 22nd, and we're going to have the band, and they are not a dead band, but they sound like the 60s transported to 2022. Honeybrook, a local Cookeville band. So this poem isn't in the anthology. It should have been. This is in my 2014 or 13 collection, Vita's Beatitude, and it's called We Go to Shows. Traveled from the four directions with truckloads of confections, bus or minivan or hybrid or bike. We drove all day. We drove through the night. We go to shows. We downloaded the leak. We blogged about the buzz. We bought the vinyl. We bought the poster. We bought the sticker and the T-shirt too. Electronic, trance, dance, world, reggae, jam. We go to folk, alternative, country, indie, hobo. We sing in our sleep. We sing to learn relief. We sing out loud even though I can't sing in tune. We sing to know until we glow that we go to shows. We remember the first vinyl that our parents let us spin. For me, it was Beatles, John Denver, Godspell, and Hair. We remember going to concerts before we could drive. For me, it was Rush and Journey and the Rolling Stones. I own the DVD of Almost Famous, a few different formats. I watch it all the time. We want to love this poem with or without rhyme. We go to shows. PW, what about your poem about meeting the guy with the license plate, man?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. The energy of the road.
The editor of the anthology, Mr. Dr. Professor Reverend PW Covington.
Oh, well, you're reading different. You're reading a different criminal record than I am.
Actor.
I have ordained him and given him an honorary doctorate this evening. The Reverend Dr. P.W. Covington.
You're the Universal Life Church at this point, man.
And now you're beyond what I did.
This happens, you know, the I in poetry isn't always me, but in this case it is. And this happened on my way to Cookeville, Tennessee for the first time, from upper Midwest somewhere. Sioux Falls, from Sioux Falls, love you, Sioux. It's called Car Wash. I pulled off the interstate near the state line to look for a place to scrub 1,000 miles of prairie from my aging red convertible. I took the Fort Campbell exit like the navigation suggested when I asked it to find me a car wash. Then a right on Tiny Town Road, shooting straight towards the Army Base Guard Shack, Fort Campbell, home of America's 101 air assaults. But just before that, one of those big, gleaming, fancy Walter White A1 have an A1 day car washes. Why the fuck not? And as the red-headed young man guides me in onto that conveyor thing, feet off the brake, transmission in neutral, he asked me about my license plate. Not the one in the back that says U.S. Air Force and disabled veteran like cops and college professors tend to do, but the red, white, the crimson, white, and indigo steely novelty on the front of my pony car. Kid, no older than 20. Skinny, shorts, and a tank top. Could have been an off-duty soldier, but for the cut of his hair and raggy copper chin beard, asks me, "Are you a deadhead?" Fuck yeah, I say. Too excited in my middle age, first person I've talked to all day. You made any shows this tour? I asked, and he tells me, nah, but we're hoping to catch him in California. Saving up cash, working here. Screaming Eagle Car Wash, just off base. Road, car wash, dead. Screaming Eagle, road grind. When I was editing through the submissions here, I know that there's at least 3 or 4 combat veterans submitting here, drawing different sorts of comparisons to the deadhead culture, and in most cases how good it is no longer to be part of the military culture. I thought that was a real touchstone, and kind of points to the inclusiveness of the deadhead community. And that's one of the strongest appeals to me. The music is the music, and the music is great, but the people are the people, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from. I know that, like Sunfrog was saying, coming out of punk and hardcore music, other folks come from bluegrass or traditional country or folk or even straight ahead what we call classic rock. But we're all singing and dancing to the same tunes, and we're all going home with the same feeling, and we're all waiting on that next tour and those days in between. And I think that Tom has another piece he'd like to. Tom is so humble, y'all. There's a beautiful little city, they call it the Sparkling City on the Bay, down on the third coast, Corpus Christi, Texas. And this cat, he's got a lot of really cool stuff. And in appreciation of that, was recently named Poet Laureate of Corpus Christi, Texas. And he's a deadhead.
All right, you could go to my website, tommurphywriter.com. All right, good. This is from my new manuscript. That's book's coming out soon, next month or a couple months after it. And this is the title poem of the book. When I wear Bob Kaufman's eyes, pillows become marbleized pillars of tiger's teeth. When I wear Bob Kaufman's eyes, polar bears drown in tar, singing raga dirges until noxious fumes stream green from their pointy ears. When I wear Bob Kaufman's eyes, homeless shelter bunks swallow lonely children. By morning, only their skeletons are left chattering. When I wear Bob Kaufman's eyes, Hiroshima light bulbs pop around the globe in cut time to signal SOS. Thank you very much.
And
So we are live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter on a bunch of different channels, and this will be hopefully archived for posterity's sake. Get through the section where the telephone as camera actually fell kind of sideways and all that kind of stuff. But we're still here, and it looks like some of you are actually still watching live, so hello, and we're grateful that you're here. One of the things when you go to a larger show that's a festival, we deal with temporary facilities. And I know that they did not estimate back at Woodstock how many portable toilets to get for how many people were actually going to be at Woodstock. And I go to a festival in Tennessee called Bonnaroo, and every year they improve the logistics. And I haven't been in a couple of years, but I used to be an every year Bonnaroo guy every June. And they really, really worked on the logistics. But there were some early days there where there were certain parts of the field that truck that cleans and sanitizes the portalettes didn't seem to be getting the service it needed. And they got pretty disgusting after a while. And I have a series of poems that I've been writing on and off again for about 30 years where I rewrite the Lord's Prayer. I'm a member of the Wharf-Rats, and I'm a 12-step guy. I'm also a very kind of spiritual guy. So I've said the Our Father many different times, very solemnly, Our Father who art in heaven. But I did this whole idea, it's such a, like the Pledge of Allegiance is another one people have rewritten as poetry. It's a thing that just has this rhythm. So I wrote a series of poem prayers that are some of them are kind of silly. And this one is about going to the Porta-John at a festival, and Ed Bonnaroo in particular. Oh, porta potty, that art at Bonnaroo, hot and stinky is your nature. You fill with excrement and the toilet paper runs out all day, and it's even worse at night. Give me this day the courage to use you if we must, and forgive us our constipation as we forgive the tight asses of others. Lead us not into incontinence and deliver us from impatience, for we would rather pee on a tree or be back home with a toilet than spend a few minutes with you. Oh, porta potty. Here's another one on fandom. Did not make the anthology, but it's in the spirit of tonight. And it uses the word fan both in terms of being a music fan and also in terms of it being summer. It was about 98 degrees in Atlanta today.
It was hot.
In hot Atlanta today.
Yes.
So anyway, so fan, that kind of fan, and being a fan. Okay. Fan cools the sweat on the back of the neck. Fandom is what brings me to this field. Fantastic feelings surprise me whenever I find my way back. Fan speaks of fanatic, has found a bad name for itself when the goodness of devotion is what we need. Fan held in hands used in church when the choir in church sweat and praise, those little hand church fans. Fan plugged into power that should come from the wind or the sun, but probably didn't. Fan was Cameron Crowe morphed into the character of William Miller, who got on the tour bus of dreams. Fan, like us, write the truth about the joy and the hypocrisy and the sincerity of the rock and roll life. Fans got on the Greyhound. Fans slept on the stoop of Ticketmaster in the years before online ticket sales. Fans in thousands from around the world found their way to a field in the middle of Middle Tennessee. Fans. PW is going to get up here. He's the editor-in-chief of our anthology, Poetry is Dead. It's available wherever you buy books, but you can get it at the old Amazon.com. And are we going to go sit together?
Yeah, we can sit back down now.
Okay.
Let's stop.
All right, and hopefully the camera won't fall. And if it does, we'll hopefully notice it falling and adjust our.
Well, you're gonna have to
Do something.
Yes.
So are you a DIY publisher too? Do you make your own books also?
I have, but I kind of refuse to go that route at the moment because
Other people are publishing your books. That's
yes. So
congratulations.
thank you. It's
I think you were talking about something earlier, Tom,
Uh-huh.
that I don't see discussed a lot in the deadhead community, and
What's that?
I'd like to hit on it. When you're outside of a major media market,
yeah.
when you live hundreds of miles, especially out west, from the nearest arena or place that people come to play, and maybe you do buy the shirt, maybe you do buy the Steely shirt at Walmart, You know, maybe the only.
Let's just pause for a moment to think about how great it is that you can buy a Steeler, right? You know,
Right.
I used to be really the steal your face, the lightning bolt inside the skull.
Oh, right.
Right, and it's a line in what song?
He's gone.
He's gone, right? So,
I am the uneducated.
we still should have higher wages and unions and stuff like that at Walmart. Don't get me wrong, and the Walton family is still very toxic or whatever. But I'll tell you what, the pandemic kind of like showed me a whole new like Walmart, you know, like
Right.
because it was the only place anybody was going.
Like I
Oh my
went to high
God.
school and I worked in radio for my first 2 jobs in a population 7,000 town in South Texas, in an extremely conservative area. The Baptist preacher had much more power than the mayor, and very far removed. No one went to shows. It was a big deal to load up and go to Austin, like a secondary market anyway, and see bands like Bon Jovi. Nobody knew who Leonard Cohen was, and you know, more folks listened to. Not saying it was terrible music, but you know, you were a lot more. There were a lot of cash gospel records being listened
You were
to
in
those kinds of
bumfuck
places.
Texas.
Right. Well, so are a lot of kids.
Right.
And when culture is something
Which is
that,
why
that
the
really has
stealing is at
to,
Walmart.
right. So I think that there's still a bit of democratization that can happen there. Whatever, you know, I used to work in mental health, and one of the things we used to say is there's no wrong door. And I think that the dead are that way too. There's no wrong way to get on the bus.
No.
You know? And I wrote a poem about that time, and I mentioned the dead in it. And because music to me has always been a huge influence in my life. I've always sought out the outside world through music. Wow, that's the first time I kind of realized that. It's called Normal. Growing up alone in a family of Texas conservatives, I was always drawn to songs of protest and liberation. Steve Earle because drug-free America. The Misfits because happily ever after. The Grateful Dead because grow up and get a job. Ice Cube because fuck the police. The Cure because opiates were rare and scary. The Clash because fucking music, man. I try on my mother's pantyhose and dresses when she was at work and finger fucked the dark-haired Lutheran pastor's daughter in her borrowed tan minivan, drinking bottles of stolen fortified wine. It never took much effort to be bad in a small town, to be wrong, to be called a bad influence, where reputations last forever, or at least to the county line. Now, even quarantined, my community spans time zones, decades and diseases past, warm nights and snowy mornings, seashores and slums, prison yards and five-star hotels. Tell me again what normal is and why you seem to need it so desperately. When I found the dead and the dead community, I saw people creating their own normal and their own, you're talking about autonomous zones. You know, I just saw that in the parking lot of City. You know, how many ad hoc bartenders just show up, liquor license be damned, and so it's going to take you longer to write the citation than it is for us to get out of here. You know, nobody's worrying about sales tax. Nobody's worrying about any of that crap. It's just people doing people stuff. And that's incredibly liberating. I know it was for me.
Yes, we went in high school, we went downtown to Detroit, and when I was first moved to Southfield, which is in one of the inner suburbs, there were some people I went to school with whose family members would not allow them to go to Detroit.
Yeah.
So to go to Detroit from the suburbs was such that same kind of liberation for us. And then of course I moved there after high school, and there was a community, there was a scene, there was the poetry and the rock and roll scene, and all of those things were kind of, you know, were
Well, how far are we driving for poetry?
I've already done 5,000 miles. You've probably done at least those 7 to 8 to 10.
You know, I wouldn't even want to put a figure on it over a number of years, but I'm talking about just this,
yeah.
just the
This
last couple
trip.
of weeks.
This
Last
since
couple weeks.
Last Friday for me. You know, that's what I've done it since last Friday. Is over 5,000 miles.
I know I ran into, well, actually, Sunfrog invited me up to Woodstock. It was only a week ago.
Yeah.
And here we are in Atlanta. I've heard it said before, Americans learn geography by fighting wars. I think an awful lot of us learn our states and get around by following.
Wow, yeah, that's cool. Can I read this poem by
Yes,
Rolanda
please
Cerna?
Yes,
From
please
La
do. It's one
Villa,
of my
Texas.
favorites. One of my favorites.
And this is called The Grateful Dead Becoming a Deadhead. What a great thing to become a deadhead. I was 18 in 1988 when I met Melanie outside of the base, Cherry Point, North Carolina, not too far from here. She simply told me, I do not date Marines. I am a deadhead. In 1996, I found myself watching The Grateful Dead. Buckeye Lake, I believe was the venue. Sorry. I was taking my young girlfriend to see her favorite band. I had no idea what I was about to enter. I was greeted with hugs from strangers. People wanted to know who I was, where I was from. My girlfriend wanted to meet me at the car after the show. I was kind of mad until I was taken by the hand by a young man and his partner. They simply told me, do not worry about her. She will be fine, and we will love to sit with you. I broke up with Kelly Oberon. Just kidding. She dumped me. What that young lady started was me going to see the Grateful Dead, whatever they were anywhere near Ohio or Indiana. I followed them into the Furthest in Deer Creek. Furtherfest in Deer Creek. Oh my gosh. I was disappointed when the fence got rushed. They were not the people I met years ago. The people that would hold the drum circles out of the back of a van. The people who would sell sandwiches for $1 or any donation. The people who would give to you if you were hungry and broke. The Miracle Me people that would wait at the concerts. Hoping beyond hope that someone would not make it to the venue and that ticket would be donated to them. The young people that would walk around with your name tag. They had made it at a previous concert, only depended on you if they found you a few weeks or even a few years later. With a simple, you have been noticed. It was a feeling of finally belonging. The day I believed I became a deadhead. I still listen to the music. I still sleep with my Purple Devil with Cape Dead beer. I sometimes sit back and reminisce about what an awesome life I have lived. Becoming a deadhead has been one of the greatest things I can remember doing. If it was a thing that I would become that had no money value, no job to look forward to, it is one of those things that you can't explain to anyone who is not there. You can't. Should be can't probably. It is also one of those things when asked, I gladly talk about, because I will always tell those stories of my adventures with a smile. Rolando Cerna lives in deep South Texas and is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fi.
And he's a very cool dude, man. Yeah.
Semper Fi.
And hope to hear more from him.
Thank you so much for coming to the Poetry is Dead live stream Atlanta, Hotlanta book release with editor-in-chief, the Reverend Dr. P.W. Covington, or just P.W. I'm just embellishing that.
Don't do that to me in Atlanta.
And Tom Murphy, my sidekick, fellow contributor from Texas. The three of us are on a bit of a mini tour. They're going to be hitting up some open mics tomorrow night. And then we'll see you all in Cookeville, Tennessee at the Backdoor Playhouse this Friday at 7 p.m. And after we have several readers, we're going to close out the night with a rock band called Honeybrook. It's amazing that Jim Landwehr from Wisconsin actually was at the same exact show at Alpine Valley, and it actually showed up in his poem. He says, in Valley of the Dead, I'd heard enough about their shows, throngs of followers tracking them as they crossed the country, 3-hour jams complete with intermissions, freaks, vagabonds, and rusted out hippies. So I decided I need to find out for myself. A music lover who knew many of their songs, grateful they were playing Alpine Valley on a warm Saturday in June '87. A friend and I showed up high because it was mandatory only to find the parking lot was its own beautiful freak show, vans, tents, and other paraphernalia. In a flashback to the 60s, clearly this wasn't just any concert. And when the music started, everyone rose to their feet dancing in a huge, swaying, pulsing, smoking display of humanity, breathing nothing but peace and love, living in only that very moment of it all, punctuated by the naked stoner guy doing no harm to anyone but chased by security whose number one occupation was shielding women from his nakedness. I think I saw the naked guy at that, and it's always interesting how they react differently to like naked males, you know, people with hair and penises and stuff. Naked females, it's just a whole different, you know, vibe. Anyway, I think I saw that guy at that show. Anyway, so I'm glad you referenced NWA. So this poem is a true story that I had an unfortunate experience with some of the Blue Lives Matter crowd at a show last summer, and it really harshed my mellow, and so I had to put it into poetry. It's called Cops at the Show, and I actually read this to the guy at the lot in Foxborough who was selling the Deadheads Against Fascism T-shirt. I almost wore that. I wore my War Frats shirt tonight because I am clean.
You gotta love the War Frats.
From
one
show
at a time.
One show at a time. But check out Deadheads Against Fascism. He had a whole setup there. It was beautiful. Anyway, this is called Cops at the Show. Is it too much to ask? Apparently it is, for no cops at the show. Sometimes when I see the badge in blue, I wonder why we even go. To a hippie paradise with guns on the perimeter, police in the zone looking for you know what. At least some fans will not be going home. I prefer the legend of Woodstock to the curse of Altamont. Wavy gravy on the hog farm just got off the plane. Even if we cannot abolish the law, there should be some terms of how they enter the deadhead game. Remember the calming, chilling comfort of other heads at the freakout tent seeking to bring us back down from the brown acid or whatever to a safe landing among siblings and friends. Summer of 2021, we are barely back to shows after all those pandemic woes, and I find myself at the top of the hill, far into the second set. Then I see it. What hurts my soul, about a dozen in uniform, dragging a fan against their will from the field. Yes, it looks like drugs. This person needs the calming tent and the likes of wavy gravy in a world where wanting to get high is not treated like a crime. The scene offends me so that I try to film it on my phone, but this guy gets in my face, threatens to take my phone, and my heartbeat crawls out of my body. What in the world am I going to do now? After the scene calms, the freaking fan taken away to who knows where, hopefully de-escalated and released and not taken elsewhere in cuffs that I will never know. Later, I see two of the cops who dragged the man away just hanging out by the fence, and another fan approaches them to say, "Thank you for your service." I just walk away dreaming of a venue where we don't always need cops at the show. Peace.
Wow.
Your editor-in-chief, PWA Covington. Poetry is dead, yo. It's been a beautiful night here in Atlanta.
Popo no good.
No.
They don't serve you, and they sure as hell can't protect you.
Well, of course they don't have to. Ask them down where you're from. So we're putting this together, and one of the greatest things, one of the coolest things, it's also a lot of work, is reading submissions coming from everywhere. And sorry, Sunfrog, we couldn't put every one of your poems in the collection. Though I think we're pretty well set in. There's going to be a sequel. So please send us your poems. Send us your poems, and you can find out how to do that online there in the book. This submission really, I love this submission the first time I read it, and I think the point that this poet was making is it's great to talk about the dead, and it's great to use our words for the dead, but why not use the dead's words to let you know a little bit about what it's about and why we dig them so much. I'm going to try really, really hard not to sing, because these are musical words. This is by Jody Mae Loomis, who's from New York State. And she didn't send the title with this. I had to email her back and say, well, what's the title of this? What's the title of this piece? Because of my formatting, I need a title. She says, I'm at a loss of words. I'm at a loss for words, so I borrowed some. Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places. You look at it right. I'm wearing my heart like a crown, pretending that you're still around. I knew right away she was not like other girls. I won't slave for beggars' pay, likewise gold and jewels, but I would stay. But I would slave to find the way, sink your ship of fools. I said I wasn't going to sing. She had rings on her fingers and bells on her shoes, and I knew without asking she was into the blues. All around her garden grew scarlets and purple, crimson and blue. She had ribbons, ribbons, ribbons in her long brown hair. The spiral light of Venus rising first and shining best. All I know is something like a bird within her sang. Anyone who sings the tune so sweet is passing by. And when the day has ended, the rainbow colors blended, sunlight splatters down with answers. Darkness shrugs and bids the day goodbye. She reclines, closing her eyes. The sun that set is bound to rise. Morning comes. She follows the path to the river shore, slightly sung. Her song is the latch on the morning door. She sees the sun sparkle in the reeds, silver beads pass into the sea. Flight of the seabird, scattered like lost words, wheel to the storm and fly. Every time that wheel turns round, bound to cover just a little more ground. Let my inspirations flow in token rhymes, suggesting rhythm. While the fire lights aglow, strange shadows, the flames will grow till things we've never seen seem familiar. The sky was yellow and the sun was blue. It's a rainbow full of sound. It's fireworks, calliopes, and clowns. Everybody's dancing. Lilac rain, the clouds will be a daisy chain. Ivory wheels on a rosewood track take us back and again to Terrapin. Listen to the river, sing sweet songs, rock my soul. White lady lullaby sings plainly for you. Wildflower seed on the sand and stone. May the four winds blow you safely home. Poised for flight, wings spread bright, spring from night into the sun. The sky is blue, the birds will sing, and you are part of everything. The sun is up, the sky is blue, it's beautiful, and so are you. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly into the mist. Sleep in the stars, roll on forever. The songbird that sings in the dale seems to say they have gone home. They've gone home. We'll meet again someday, walking the streets of pure gold. This is all a dream we dreamed one afternoon long ago. Like the morning sun, you come, and like the wind, you go. Inspiration move me. Brightly light the song with sense and color. Hold away despair. If anyone should ask, who made this song? Say Jack of Roses. And all who played along the saxophone. someplace far off, played. Winter rain, now tell me why summers fade and roses die. The answers come, the wind and rain, so goes we make what we made since the world began, nothing more than the love of a woman and the work of men. Seasons round, creatures great and small, up and down as we rise and fall. This world is not our home. We are only passing through. Our trail is all made up, way beyond the blue. Hang your heart on laughing willows stray, down to the water deep sea of love. Just a box of rain, wind and water. Believe it if you need to. If you don't, just pass it on. Blue light rain, whoa, unbroken chain. Looking for familiar faces in an empty window pane. Cloud hands reaching from a rainbow, tapping at the window. Touch your hair. Got it from the top. It's nothing you can stop. Lord, you know they made a fine connection. So I'm not around, but I still surround you. Can you hear the sound of my love around you? I won't be able to stay, but I'm glad that I found you. Peek through a hole in the clouds, the sun was screaming, hey you, shine on, keep on shining. I'll be with thee. You don't have to worry, I'll be with thee. My words did glow with the gold of sunshine and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung. Would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as if it were your own? And when you hear that song come crying like the wind, it seems like all this life was just a dream. You don't have to be discouraged. I'll be with thee. Can you hear me? Love you. It all rolls into one and nothing comes for free. There's nothing you can hold for very long. All the years combined, they melt into a dream in the secret space of dreams where I am dreaming lay amazed. When the secrets are all told and the petals all unfold, well, I only know this. I've got you today. 'Cause I love what I love and I want it that way. What do you want me to do? To do for you to see through mountain high, river wide, so many roads to ride. We made mad love, shadow, random love, and abandoned love. Sorry, Warren. We have to lose from love except what lacks foundation. Words only carve the space we fill with expectation. Only love can fill. Gotta make it somehow. On the dreams you still believe. Without love in the dream, it'll never come. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings. The heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. Let there be songs to fill the air. We've been together since the first seed of light. If we walk together, little children, we don't ever have to worry through this world of trouble. We've got to love one another. Through failure, success, I'll understand when you've done your best. Through water, through the flood, through the fire, through the blood, I'll be with thee. Let us do the very best we can while we're traveling through this land. Wherever you go, there will be birds to cheer you, flowers to color in the field around. Wherever we go, I'll be right here near you. Circle songs and sands of time and seasons will end in tumbled rhyme and little change. The wind and rain, winter gray and falling rain will see summer come again. Darkness falls and seasons change. Same old friends, the wind and rain. I want to say to my sister and my brothers, keep the faith. Lilies have the bees to lend them, grasses have the wind to bend them. Broken hearts have tears to mend them. Show us stairs, we will ascend them. Terrapin, let's take our fellow man by the hand. Try to help him understand. We can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land. That's Jody May Lumasu, deadpan extraordinaire, weaving it all together like a tailor, like a seamstress there. And I think that's just gonna about do it. Can we get everybody back up here and do one of those things that we do?
Talk about.
No, we're gonna say bye.
Oh, we are.
I think so. I think we're up against
An
it.
hour, yeah.
Wow. So
Wow. There's a lot of great poems in here. I was hoping to read John Catfish Wojciechowicz.
Go for
his
it.
poem
Go for
on Nightlife Austin TV. I paid for another night at Drifters Jack's hostel before fighting afternoon sunlight into the hole in the wall on Guadalupe, adorned with Kinky Friedman for governor posters and a bandana autographed by Willie Nelson. The regulars who are walking testimonials to old age being the hangover from life assess my condition and unanimously agree on a cure. Bite the dog that bit ya. So I order a shiner and a shot of whiskey. I spent the previous evening chugging beers, watching Billy Joe Shaver perform at Threadgills, formerly Armadillo World Headquarters, where Janis Joplin regularly drank her signature half Jack, half Southern over shaved ice with a cherry. I decided to hitch there again for seafood po' boy and the cute girl at the counter who, smitten with my tour-worn tie-dye, pours me a beer and slips me a ticket to a show at Scoot Inn that starts in an hour. As the Black Angels release their opening notes, some old hippie offers me a handful of mushrooms that catapult me into psychedelic effervescence, humming above the crowd, maybe in the form of a cloud, watching the groundswell. I float in the wild American night, stopping in local cantina for purple margaritas until the man sweeping the floor animates his broom. A sorcerer's apprentice with a Fu Manchu cleans me out of the bar in fantasia of color. A cab driver throws me out somewhere near Lady Bird Lake, where I put my feet in the sunrise until it blinds my eyes, humming Blaze Foley's If I Could Only Fly, before seeking sleep with the bats under Congress Bridge, awaiting the evening to arise again. That's Catfish John Wojciechowicz. Grew up somewhere, up working on this family azaleas and rhododendron nursery in the backwoods of what Ginsburg dubbed Nowhere's in New Jersey. The Grateful Dead's music and the surrounding community helped him to come into himself and find his way on that bright blue ball just spinning free. His full-color coffee table style chapbook, Roadside Attractions, a poetic guide to the American oddities, was published in 2022. Thank you.
Wow.
Poetry is Dead,
Poetry is Dead.
an inclusive Deadhead anthology featuring Tom Murphy, Sunfrog, and Andrew William Smith, our editor-in-chief.
Well, I edited the thing. I'm going to put a couple of my own poems in there. But thank you so much, and thanks for tuning in. And you can go to the Big A or ask around at your indie shops. They can get it for you too. Poetry is Dead. No, it isn't.
Like the video, share it to your friends.
Yeah, especially where it like fell off.
And
Peace out.
come out to Cooksville, okay?
Cookville.
Backdoor Theater.
Backdoor Theater.
Tennessee Tech
Friday,
University.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Friday, July 22nd. And tomorrow, what's the open mic rate tomorrow?
An open mic here in Atlanta.
We're in Atlanta.
Yes.
All right.
We're in Atlanta.
Peace.
Peace out.
Ask me a question.
See, that was the question.